companies implement new tariffs approved by the regulator. Ahead, we speak with the president of the Ghana Hotels Association on what adjustments hoteliers are having to make. Also coming up, the latest price hikes. Cement products are now selling at 73 cedis per 50 kg bag. And the price of diesel, also expected to go up by 2%, will fill you in. And butchers speak out about the impact of the depreciation of the cedi on the operations.
We are really suffering now because sometimes we buy the cows from the neighboring countries, Nigeria, Niger, Mali. So now, because of the cedi, it has very, very depreciated.
It's Daryl. Kwawu, thanks for joining us. Details coming up. It's the first day of September, and the cost of water and electricity supply to you goes up beginning today as utility companies implement new tariffs approved by the regulator, the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. Electricity is going up by 27.15%, water is up 21.55%. How are businesses adjusting to these new tariffs? Joining me is President of the Ghana Hotels Association, Dr. Edward Akanyameke. Thanks for your time. I'm sure the news of the increment has sunk in now, and so businesses like yours have to think about how to adjust. But first, give us an idea in terms of operational costs. What percentage do utilities take?
Right, Daryl, thanks so much for the opportunity. Indeed, I always need to remind the listeners that when we talk about the hotels, we are looking at a wide range from budget to five-star hotel. And it's always important to bring in this factor because the impact of these tariffs will differ. The cost of electricity, especially in our operations, ranges from anything around 30% to almost about 25% of operational costs. Okay, so that's basically what it means, that about 13% to sometimes even up to 30% of all operational costs goes into electricity and water.
And so what adjustments are you having to make, the hoteliers, now that you have to pay more, between 20 to 30% for utilities?
Yes, obviously that's a very significant jump, and we don't envisage any immediate adjustments. Rather, the hotels are going to assess the actual impact of this adjustment, because they also have to look at it against what they can do to cushion the customers. And that's what people don't realize, that hotels do a lot to cushion customers, knowing very well that our customers are cost sensitive. So we're going to look at ways in which you can cushion this significant adjustment in the utilities. And if it will mean some slight adjustment over the period, that may be considered, but that will not be an immediate response. Remember too that this is going to trigger other costs. If you look at laundry, for instance, some of the hotels outsource their laundry services, and then it also triggers some salaries agitation, because our workers will have to pay more at home for utilities. And then also, you also have to look at other services that we receive from vendors. They're also going to look at the extra cost on their services, and that will also be something that we need to. So all this will be factored into the impact of this significant jump in the utility tariffs?
I mean, you say that charges are not going to go up immediately. Of course, you have to do an assessment, see how, for instance, at the end of the month, how much you're having to pay for water or electricity to make a decision. But a greater part of me thinks that the charges may have to go up. Otherwise, how else can you sustain your operations?
That points to the explanation I gave earlier on that the hoteliers are not cost adjustment inclined when it comes to some of these things in the immediate response. There are ways that we could adjust our operations, even with the utility consumption itself, with the electricity and water. We may have to look at ways to reduce the consumption of these utilities. We also have to look at ways to reduce cost in other areas, with, of course, the participation of our workers as well. And so if all these are done, and it doesn't cushion this significant jump, then unfortunately, that is where the customer will have to come in to support the business to start. So
I like the way you put it. The customer would have to come in to support the business to adjust. And you talked about reducing consumption. One of the things that I feel that you guys have to deal with is wastage, especially on the part of customers. How do you control that?
Well, fortunately for us, there's technology in the system that helps us in some instances to check this, especially with the key cards, which is linked to electricity. So immediately you leave a room, you will need a card to exit. Once you exit, the electricity switches on automatically. So once the customer is not in the room, that is it. And then we have sensors as well. So if you have a corridor or a space that has nobody there, the system automatically shuts off so that you don't have to be consumed. And then we also need to educate our workers. I'm sure by now, but even before today, a lot of the hotels would have educated their workers on the need to conserve these utilities, because a lot, like you're saying, a lot also lies in our hands to be able to manage this cost very well so that it doesn't eat too much into our profits.
And I'm sure hotels that do not have this kind of technology by now should be rethinking and putting some of these systems in place. When we talked during the time the announcement was made, I think that we all had the understanding that the PRC had no choice but to adjust the prices, the tariffs, so that they can also sustain the operations. But I've heard calls, for instance, from the AGI saying that there should be a special regime for businesses, there should be a special regime for industries. Is this something that the Hotels Association is keen on talking to the stakeholders about, maybe a special regime? I mean, the AGI, for instance, talks about cost subsidies, a review of the cost subsidies, which were introduced years ago.
Daryl, we've been part of that call. We've been part of that advocacy and campaign. Indeed, under the current economic actions, we would have wished that there was no upward adjustment, or even downward adjustment. You see, wishes have never been horses. Okay. So we welcome the new rates, but with a lot of disquiet. Also, bearing in mind that this is certainly going to affect our. But when it comes to the subsidy issue you raised earlier on, the commercial and the domestic, it is something that we have been pushing. And we think that because of the nature of our businesses and the rippling effect, the benefit, the financial benefit, the rippling effect of the financial benefits that the industry, especially hotels, holds for the economy, it's an area that there must be some special assessment. Because yes, we want constant supply of electricity, we want constant supply of water to be made. But is it possible to also assess the overall benefits that we get from the industry and therefore look at the tariffs that come to us, keep us in business to ensure that we contribute our quota to development? I think this is something that we need to look at. Possibly they should institute a study to look at it carefully and see how best it will work out for all of us.
Another thing we don't talk about so often is also exploring alternative sources of power, for instance, or cheaper sources of power. Is this something that the hoteliers are thinking about just to beat down on costs?
Daryl, on the contrary, this is something we've been talking about. We've been talking about it for quite some time now. At one point, we got so close to engaging an international company to help us with accessing solar energy. Unfortunately, we had a hitch from the Energy Commission when they decided that extra power generated from solar could not be sold back to the national grid. And that is what stopped us from advancing, because the company was factoring in that aspect that if you generate extra electricity, you'll be able to sell it back to the grid and then keep them in business as well. But I heard the energy minister some months ago talk about the fact that they were looking at that particular policy, that if they do, and as we speak, there are some banks who are ready to sponsor the hotels to get solar energy for their operations. But we need to look at the cost as well, because in some cases, the figures that are looked at, if you spread it over a period, you could tell that linking to the national grid alone will even be better for you. Okay, so we have to look at the cost of the solar energy, because the equipment itself is not the challenge. The cost mainly with the storage of the power, and without storage, it means that you generate a lot of current and then you lose it. But if you have the storage and you are able to sell the excess, then it makes some business sense. So probably if you look at things now, and these are things that are beyond us when it comes to policy, when it comes to implementation of policy. So like you already said, we'll go on with that advocacy, ensure that we have cheaper sources of power for our business, which relies a lot on these power.
Seems is the way to go. Thanks very much, Dr. Edward Akanyamike. Thanks for your time, President of the Ghana Hotels Association. Well, it's not just utility tariffs going up. Prices of cement products have finally gone up, with some producers selling a 50-kilogram bag at 73 Ghana cedis. Meantime, a liter of diesel is also expected to be increased by almost 2%. Here's George Jaffe with news of the latest price hikes. All right, we'll bring you that story in a bit. But let's turn to another issue to do with the cedi and its performance. Butchers at the Techiman Central Market in the Bono East region are worried about the depreciation of the local currency. The group, who heavily rely on neighboring countries for cattle, say the drop in the value of the cedi has increased the cost of importation, thus crippling their businesses. They are therefore adding their voices to the call on government to help redeem the local currency from constant depreciation against major foreign trading currencies to keep them in business. My colleague Anas Abed has been engaging some of them and comes through with this report.
The rapid depreciation of the cedi against the major currencies, especially the dollar and the CFA, continue to wreak havoc on many businesses across the country. Butchers here at the Techiman Central Market are not left out of this worrying development. They say the current challenges with the depreciating cedi is slowly crippling their businesses.
Now, the whole Ghana butchers, we are really suffering now because sometimes we buy the cows from the neighboring countries, Nigeria, Niger, Mali. So now, because of the city, it has very, very depreciated. So we are facing many challenges now.
Your Ghana, you did go safe from Hannah Doris. We'll be at Ghana, you did that go. Let the safer and a digger. Now, imagine what is a safe for the Cosis Mua. That's the train of Sulan Echo. Say to Tolan Trail, Baku 12,000, 15,000, 10,000. I will be to 10 cities. Why, imagine, better than Africa. Then I wasn't for one of the other cat.
With more empty tables here in the butcher house, the butchers are asserting that a number of their colleagues are staying out of business because they can't afford to buy cattle from the market.
Tables were a good demo. Tables no na nipa ba ku bi afa table ba ko. But this time round so ba demo tables no. Bi mo ajaja o table side aguo because of ohwe economy na management no. Ah e demo ha no. Ama bi afisa.
Tula na consider about say tables no be e de ho. Be be ntimi to na twi na nam safe na ade akosoro no. Eno ana nyesa ade a aduma ne de kasa o mo nton na na e boa. Na me de o mo to. Ba safe na ma yeso yentimi nton na twi no. Sana tears.
A pound of cow meat that was sold at 10 Ghana cedis few months ago is today sold at 20 Ghana cedis. Aminu Kobi says the situation is as a result of the hike in exchange rates.
First, no, you see us where they are 20 cities. You see a cry in Yaya, you have 25 cities. As I said, $1 now cost Rono. Obio, Oboko coins, so not a buano, the cars, car, whatever, fuel, so cost Rono, Chama, Buano Boy. You say in Yaya, they 25. But Minu, you know, Genevia, Yakoma Bokurano, Mueti, Filipania, is a 10 cities, 25, and I am one.
Both these sellers and buyers are lamenting the current situation and its effects. Mami Ama is here to buy meat. She says she's currently spending more on meat today compared to the past few months. Former Assemblyman for the Gombaland electoral area, Salahuddin Megabush, appealed to government to institute measures capable of checking the decline of the local currency against the CFA to keep them in business.
Because every week we are safe for Kosoro. Every week we are there. Among component to manage to be a safe no. With the Bagana school is coming at 30 cities. The following week on my corner, almost 40. The strap for say, I'm multi safe and also yet. And my no multi safe and so my am one of the free. Sa a bobo ni broken out on one side, the French side of a bano. A mama yasu yatimiato. I never bring one more job, Juma Swati Mabede. Abaya Juma.
Abdul Rashid Al Hassan, on his part, wants government to invest in meat production to curb the imports of cattle from neighboring countries.
I'm advising the government to invest more in the agri sector, especially the animal side. They should invest more because even our countries in West Africa, they run a car, but they don't consume it. We consume it more.
They are therefore adding their voices to the call on government to help redeem the Ghanaian cedi from its constant depreciation against the major trading currencies to help save the situation.
President, no. Yeah, but you didn't send him ever guame, but never mind. On try, no, 2 years like I don't find you, I want to a camera Ghana. I buy no one buying and some or buying in summer. Not ya tinida. Or what's an arty? No, on you man in summer. Then a 4 more summer tirano. The Mempa country, no. Into one buying them some.
So these are the concerns raised by these particular butchers here at the Techiman Central Market. They are much worried about the incessant hikes of the CFA compared to the Ghanaian cedi, and they are hopeful that government or those in authority will do something to halt the unending depreciation of the Ghanaian currency. From the Techiman Central Market here at the butcher shop, my name is Anna Savage, reporting for JoyNews.
Well, the cedi depreciation having an impact on cement prices. As we've been telling you, prices of products have finally gone up. Some producers selling at 73 Ghana cedis for a 50 kg bag. Meanwhile, a litre of diesel also expected to be increased by 2%. Here's more from George Affe.
We understand that all the major producers have adjusted prices for each 50 kilo bag of cement, which took effect from this Tuesday. Joy Business is learning that prices have gone up by 8 Ghana cedis to as much as 15 Ghana cedis per 50 kilo bag of cement. However, we can independently verify that of GASM based on the price list sent out to distributors and seen by Joy Business. Now, due to the differentiated products offered by GASM for their cement, you'll be paying 64 Ghana cedis and 68 Ghana cedis for a 50 kilo bag of cement, but as much as 73 Ghana cedis for their premium cement product. We are yet to see the price list of other producers on the market, but the increment, we understand, will not be more than 10 Ghana cedis per bag. We understand that the adjustments are linked to the recent sharp depreciation of the Ghana cedi as the producers take measures to recover their losses over the past month. Well, even before we fully absorb this news with the increment in cement, a litre of diesel is expected to go up from today by 1.4% per litre over the current price of 13 Ghana cedis 46 pesos per litre. This is based on the index that guides all the oil marketing companies in the country when it comes to pricing of petroleum products from the 1st of this month. However, petrol and LPG are expected to go down marginally at the pumps from today.
Some more news for you. Indigenous financial service provider Fidelity Bank and Finance in Motion, a fund advisory, have launched the Eco Business Fund. The fund, which is tailored towards supporting the agribusiness sector, will not only provide financial aid but also assist players in the space with technical backing to help build a sustainable agri sector. Here's more.
Speaking at the launch of the Eco Business Fund, the managing director of Fidelity Bank, Julian Opuni, has revealed that the bank is committed to supporting the agribusiness sector, the sector which is a major driver of the country's economy, and as an indigenous financial service provider, Fidelity Bank is committed to doing whatever it takes to grow the sector.
I think one of the issues that is very pertinent at the moment is we hear about the access to finance for the agri sector and the fact that everybody says that growing agri sector is the future for economies like ours. Ghana is not excluded from that. And so as a bank that is predominantly based in Ghana, very little operations everywhere else, if we don't impact on that part, then we won't be doing our bit. And that's why it's important that we are the forefront. Fidelity always likes to pioneer things when it comes to the financial sector, and we're hoping that we can again create another success story in charting this course.
On her part, investment manager for Africa at Finance in Motion, Maxine Shahab, praised the partnership with Fidelity Bank and further stated that though the fund will support various industries in the agribusiness sector, it will start with farmers in the poultry industry. This, she believes, is crucial in cushioning farmers that have been hit by bird flu and also help to shore up deficits of imports caused by the impact of losses recorded due to bird flu.
As part of a bigger picture, as I said, we are looking at both domestic and exports-oriented crops. If COVID has taught us anything, it's the necessity to also produce locally and start substituting imports. So both sets of commodities are very important for us. Poultry just came as a first, let's say, need from the clients of the bank, particularly given the current bird flu that is going on. So we are looking to put in place a program together to help prevent, let's say, more damages than has already happened to poultry farmers. But we are very much looking at working together also on maize, on soya, coconut, mango, and many other commodities.
The Eco Business Fund will not only provide funding support for farmers, but will also provide technical assistance, which is aimed at building a sustainable agribusiness sector.
An actuarial scientist with the University of Lagos, Nigeria, Professor Joseph Mojeku, has urged African leaders to invest in science and development research. He observes that this is key in bringing Africa at par with developed countries. He was speaking at a conference in Kumasi.
Professor Mojeku was speaking at the 11th Sustainable Education and Development Research Conference 2022 in Kumasi under the theme, Build Resilient Infrastructure, Promote Inclusive and Sustainable Industrialization, and Foster Innovation. Professor Mojeku noted that social unrest has hampered the development of many African countries. He believes the situation has contributed largely to brain drain.
It is observed that Africa is lacking behind in areas of education, research, and innovation. Hence, we should shout with one voice to push our various governments to invest massively in education if we should achieve the desired objectives. There is therefore the need for the global south, that is developing countries in general, to invest massively in education, research, and social infrastructures, and to formulate guidelines or policies to shape research efforts in all ramifications of human endeavors. If the developing countries and their organizations are to catch up with the advanced countries of the global north.
Speaking on behalf of the Vice-Chancellor of KNUST, Provost of the College of Art and Built Environment, Professor John Tiambugri, charged the participants to deliberate on solutions to the continent's challenges.
The litany of challenges and problems have been well known and documented over the years. What is less known and documented is what the innovative solutions to these developmental challenges and problems are, and this should engage your attention as researchers, professionals, and innovators.
The conference showcased several peer-reviewed papers relating to engineering, built environment, hospitality and tourism, oil and gas, and energy, among others.
And that's our program this afternoon. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl. See you same time tomorrow.